Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to this webinar on selection of greenhouse, net house, or tunnels, the right technology that suits your location. Friends, Indian protected cultivation industry has been there for last 25 years, but still it is in this nascent stage. It's progressing slowly towards the gradual technological advancement. One of the ways to evolve the market and any industry is to impart the right education. We are sitting on a very strong foundation for the work done for the last 25 years by many eminent members of the greenhouse industry and very strong efforts by government of India to push this technology. Sky is the limit for this particular technology in days to come. As you must have already realized that during all this extreme lockdown, we have not stopped eating, and there will be more and more demand for the quality food. So this technology is here to stay. Friends, this webinar is one of our first steps in setting up the basics rights, empower you to ask the right question about what technology to use, what suits your location, what are the things that you must ask your greenhouse fabricator. So this webinar is going to give you an exposure on different available technologies, mostly in the Indian context. And we'll go from here to answer your question and answer sessions. So let me start this presentation with an excellent story that I want to share with you and which will excite you a lot. Let me introduce you to a very exciting young gentleman, Mr. Tarun Mal. Now imagine what was his profession. He was a film editor in BBC. Yes, film editor in BBC. Of course, it was a monotonous life for him. He left his job, came back to India, and decided to get into farming. He got into a protected farming after trying his hands on the open field cultivation. Now, he was looking for a niche crop. He searched for the right technology. So he did his net house of around 4,000 square meters, less than 4,000 square meters. His site is located just about 4,000 meters, about 70-80 kilometers from Delhi. That's in Albar. And he chose a crop after doing extensive research that is multiflora chrysanthemum. I had a long chat with him because he is our customer, and my eyes popped out looking at his estimates and his success story. So I want to share his success story with you. Now, if I tell you that you have earning potential of making up to 1 crore rupees in this kind of potted plant, it is just an amazing number. I was surprised myself, but that's the earning potential that I'm talking about. I will tell you the numbers that he achieved. Each of the plant that you see, this chrysanthemum, he grew it up to 3 feet, this thing, radius. And he could do around 11,000 plants in an acre. The selling price for this particular plant with the 3 feet ball of the flower was about 600 rupees, and he was selling directly to the hotels. Now this year he is going to optimize with around 12,000 plants and selling directly in 3 months, 10 days cycle. He could generate around 23 lakhs rupees of income. Now that's a mind-blowing number, isn't it? So this year he has optimized and he is going to do just 2 feet radius of the flowers, and he will do, because of the smaller radius, he will do little bit of bigger, more number of plants in the same net house space. So he expects that if he takes 3 to 4 cycle, he should be able to make around 80 lakhs to 1 crore rupees just from 1 acre of net house. Now it's very important to understand what is the different thing that he did. All he did was a great planning and choosing the right technology. In 25 years of the evolution of the industry, you will see success stories and you will also see many failures. Let's understand, our team's job today is to make you little aware about what are the questions that you must ask, what are the technologies that you must go for, so that at least you take an educated purchase decision. So you see how beautiful his flowers are. It was mind blowing for me also, but he did a lot of research in selecting his technology and his products. I had been to Denmark a couple of years back and I studied the possibility of doing pot plants. I personally, as a consumer, I come from the floriculture industry and the greenhouse industry, so I'm a big supporter of my industry. However, I am also always of the perception that when somebody gives me a bouquet of flowers, many a time, suppose I am in some other place, I do not carry it back to home, or even if I keep it home, it decays faster. So I saw this concept and I really like this concept of uh, potted plants, the potted plants, gifting of potted plants. It's a great idea, and that's what Tarun has started. I was also surprised to see the tomatoes being grown on the dining table, like for the dining table, like you have the tomato plants on your dining table. And I have a customer of mine, Mr. Mahesh, who is already started this Magic Greens. He is starting this concept that he gives you the plant and you keep the pots at your home, and all the time you have the availability of the fresh plant. So this is the future. As Mr. Call, we started this webinar series about 15-22, about 3 weeks before, and our senior chief technology officer, Mr. Vimal Kaul, already said it in his previous presentation that 30% is the thing which equipment does. It means your success depends 30% on the equipments. But 70% of your success, it depends on your horticulture skills. So we last webinar we spoke about the horticulture skill. In this webinar we are going to focus on the 30% tools only. I have got many questions for many participants. We have invited the panelists, questions to the panelists beforehand. So we have implemented some of the questions during our presentation, and I'm sure time is limited. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible from your questions that you have sent to us. And during this webinar, if you have any questions, towards the end of it. So what are we going to learn today? Let me tell you the structure of this webinar. We are going to learn how to choose the right technology to suit your location. This is the main title thing. Then the most important thing is that if you choose the structure, you should also choose the right kind of covering materials. So I'm going to give you a broader outline of what are the right kind of technologies available for you. Then the most important thing which will empower you to ask the right questions to any supplier is learning the fine points. Many a times our focus is to get the cheapest of the product, or we mostly bargain on the prices without actually knowing that what are the important things and critical parts which we should not compromise. Then there are things, as I said, that 25 years of industry experience, and still the industry is in nascent stage of development and advancement compared to other parts of the world. So I will tell that what is my wish list, like at least the bare minimum that we must do in India to make it little better. And the last, my favorite topic, why cheap is expensive. And this will break a lot of myths about when people go just for the price and not really for the quality. And trust me, between the best quality and a normal quality, the difference is not that much. It's just a question of awareness. Many a times you're just not aware. So let me introduce you to my eminent panelist. I will invite all the people. You can put your settings to the speaker view so that you can see all the panelists. So I invite Mr. Vimal Kaul to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Rajiv. Welcome, everyone. I'm Vimal Kaul. I'm Chief Technology Officer of Agriplast Protected Cultivation. My field of expertise is hydroponics, greenhouse climate control, and trainings, both off the farm and on the farm. In Agriplast, my job is to hold up your hands while laying a solid foundation for your hydroponic or greenhouse projects. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Shubhankar Dattagupta. I am Director Sales Marketing for Agriplast Tech India Private Limited, and I am responsible for the right selection of the products and tools offered by Agriplast. These tools and products which help you in your successful journey in the high-tech agriculture. Thank you.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम नवीन सिंह है। मैं एग्री प्लास्ट में वरिष्ठ एग्रोनॉमिस्ट पद पे हूँ। पिछले 20 वर्षों से प्रोडक्ट कल्टीवेशन से जुड़ा हूँ, विशेषकर एक्सपोर्ट और डोमेस्टिक मार्केट के लिए प्रोडक्शन का अनुभव रखता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम पीयूष पांडे है और मैं एग्री प्लास्ट में एग्रोनॉमिस्ट हूँ। हमारा कार्य किसानों को इरिगेशन, फर्टिगेशन, प्लांट प्रोटेक्शन, क्रॉप मैनेजमेंट आदि विषयों पर समय पर सलाह उपलब्ध कराना, और सही सलाह सफलता के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है और हम उसके लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं। धन्यवाद।
Hello everyone, My name is Abhishek Bhatt. I am Director Sales and Marketing of Agriplast Pvt Cultivation, and I am responsible for the growth of the company by continuously adding latest technology, which will help our farmers to win in today's competitive world and also help you in your successful journey in high-tech agriculture projects. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ashish, responsible for designing and executing simple to complex projects in India and in 14 countries where Agriplast has its presence. Better design and planning will always help you in your successful journey. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Bhuvnesh and I'm DGM Sales and Marketing of Agriplast Product Cultivation. I'm responsible for creating world-class project by adding simple to complex automation in all aspects of a greenhouse operation. Please remember that right use of automation will always help you in your successful journey of high-tech agriculture project. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sumit. I am Assistant Vice President Sales and Marketing of Agriplast Tech India Private Limited. I am a digital marketing expert also. I am responsible for communicate the latest technology and products which will keep you ahead of competition, and also it will help you in successful journey in high-tech agriculture. Thank you.
So let's start with today's topic. We have Dr. Myra. She is the Vice President of Technology and she is my co-speaker. She will be talking about the developments and she will share her experience on the greenhouse plastics. She is experienced in research and development of agriculture plastics. She is head of the innovation team of Ginegar and she has worked as an agriculture application product manager in Toshaf. She is highly qualified. She is a PhD in chemistry from Technion University, Institute of Technology in Israel. Dr. Myra, welcome her. And myself, I'm the speaker of the day. I'm Rajiv Kumar Roy. I'm the founder of Agriplast Tech India Private Limited and chairman of Agriplast Protected Cultivation. So that's about me. Let's start with the topic. There is one small announcement. Many of the participants asked for a certificate last time. Those who want to participate, our interest is to give you a certificate, but you have to really learn the subject in order to just get a certificate, because certificate without learning has no meaning. So towards the end of the webinar, we will be sharing with you a link of a quiz which has a 50 question quiz with 50 marks each question, and all the questions are from this webinar. There is nothing out of syllabus, and then you have a quiz at the end of it, so you can participate in the quiz and your certificate will be shared with you by the mail. Then second thing is that for the people who are from Facebook, they will also see the link and you can participate in that link. So choosing the right technology, friends. When we talk about the technology, what are the available options? Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. The first step is project planning. I get many a time a question just asking, sir, tell me the price of it. How much does it cost? I ask them, have you bought the land? No, sir, we are still searching for it. I said, then come back after you find this answer. So there are three important points which is during the project planning criteria. What is the market that you are going to target? Do you have the market linkage? And have you done the competitor analysis? I'm just touching about the points. If you need, you can just take the screenshot of this. So please identify your target market. I will give you a story. One of the farmers, well before the time, started growing broccolis in Bihar. I come from Bihar, so I will tell you that this was a big flop. He could not sell it because people thought it's an over-matured cabbage. So the market did not have that awareness and he was growing ahead of time. So he was targeting a market of Bihar, but growing broccoli, his project failed. This is also bringing us to another topic of understanding the local cultures and habits. So if this guy would have studied the local culture, he would not have failed. So understanding the culture, what is being eaten properly in the local market. Sometimes I come across farmers who wanted to grow color capsicum, but they end up selling green capsicum because they say that, sir, this is getting me a faster sales in the market. So I have a farmer just right now 9 kilometers from my home. 3 years he grew colored capsicum, but this year he is growing only green capsicum because during the corona time he is able to sell it just for 60 rupees a kilo at his farm gate. So he is happy. The important thing about site selection criteria are these. What is the location of the site, where it is located, what is the accessibility of it, what is the altitude of the site, what is the distance to the market. Now accessibility is a very, very important point because you are going to go there most of the days and your workers are going to go there. Many people do not put this point into consideration. So if the site is accessible, Your consultant will be able to come there more frequently. How far is your site from the road, port, train, station? So this is another consideration to be made. What is the power availability? Internet and mobile feasibility, because these days, in days to come, you have the IoT coming. So when IoT is come and if you don't have internet services, it's not going to work for you. So consider these points while selecting the site. The other important thing is that soil analysis, weather analysis, water analysis, sufficient and good quality of water source. Now these are very, very important parameters to be noted and to be checked before. I'm going to show you what are the parameters you must check. Please take the screenshot of this particular slide. And whenever you are planning a project, you must follow this thing and do this test before you actually go for your site selection. Another site selection criteria is the weather, related to weather. I was talking to some investor in Ahmedabad last week and he had a site and I asked him, give me this weather data. The site is purchased already without telling this data. So many times people say, I want to put up a greenhouse, sir. I said, no, first tell me what is the weather data. Like my friend in Albar, I told you, for him, just a net house was enough. He did not need a greenhouse. So many times you don't have to go for the ultimate technology. You have to go for the right technology. Then what is the humidity of this particular place? What is the rainfall, annual rainfall that you have? What is the sunshine hours? What is the maximum and minimum temperature? All this information you please collect it at least for 5 years on a daily basis, not a monthly average. A daily basis will help us to see what is the diurnal variation of a day and night temperature. This will be empowering the designer to design what kind of systems you need to control. Unfortunately, 25 years, we are using only one type of greenhouse, which is naturally ventilated greenhouse. And global technologies has moved ahead. They are using different kind of technology. It's a different thing that we are trying to sell the product in the same market where we are competing with the open field. However, the time is changing and there is a demand which is increasing for the quality food. So I'm sure that in days to come, you will have more and more demand for the high quality food. These are the soil testing parameters. Many a times you go to give the soil testing, you do not know what are the parameters that you must ask the lab to do. Ask for the EC test, pH test, NPK test. NPK is nitrogen, potash, phosphorus. Organic carbon, organic matter, iron, zinc and manganese, calcium, magnesium and sodium, bicarbonate, carbonate, chloride, sulfate, sodium absorption ratio or SAR, free calcium carbonate, exchangeable sodium percentage, soil type, water holding capacity, and the soil permeability. These are the factors which you must know in the soil. What is the kind of soil you have, whether it's a sandy soil, whether it's a loam soil, it's a clay soil. This will decide many other parameters like drip irrigation design and the water quality parameters. Now this table that you see here, this is the optimum range. Now let's say we have the test report A and test report B. Now if you see the EC of the optimum range is under 0.25. So test report A has a EC of 0.25 moles per second and 0.75. So this is more or less okay. Now alkalinity of this optimum range here is under 100 mg per liter. Test report A is 80 milligram per liter and test report B is 120 milligram per liter. So test report of 120 milligram per liter, test report B is what I am going to reject. So if you see the red marks, these are the tables which I am going to reject. So water analysis and this soil analysis is of extreme importance in order for you to decide the planning to buy that particular land and the location selection. I will tell you there are two stories that I have personally come across. There are 39 acres of net house in Gujarat. Only one mistake. The project failed because it did not do the water test. The EC was high. Similarly, about 20 years or 25 years back, there was a project in Bangalore growing roses, and that project closed down because the water EC was very high. And these two sites, had they done the water test alone, they would have saved crores of rupees that they invested in the project. So sometimes a simple testing like this will go a long way in making you to take the right decision and invest in the project. I'm sure that there are many people who want to put up the project, and I'm sure that there are many people who have already put up the project. Those who have already put up the project, they will understand the importance of this thing, and they can vouch for it that this is one of the basic things, though it may sound very basic, but trust me, when you lose a lot of money for the basic, it really hurts. Now the next important thing, you have chosen your site, you have done your soil and water test. What should be the next logical step? The next logical step is choosing the right vendor. How do you choose the right vendor? Okay, these are technical subjects, it can become boring. So there is a joke that was forwarded on WhatsApp recently. Then choose the smallest number. This was the question asked to the students, and they never understood what mistake they did. You see point 1, 2 and 3, they thought that they are the smallest number and they made a mistake, so they got 0 out of 3. And this is what happens when you choose any vendor based on the pricing alone. Please go and check for the criteria that I'm going to talk to you now. These are the projects, the failed projects, which has failed mostly because the fundamentals were ignored there. Fundamentals like structural designing, fundamentals like type of wind speed design, or those kind of factors. The project is put with a big fanfare and then it ends up on the ground. What are the things that you must check? Whenever you choose any vendor, make sure to visit his factory. I'm sure that when anybody is going to invest in a greenhouse technology or a net house technology or a tunnel technology, you are rich enough or you have plans to spend some good reasonable amount of money. So it's your right to go and check the vendor's factory. So this is one of the first things that you must do. Number 2, go and visit his sites. Check for the quality of connectors. If the connectors are rusting, if the nut bolts are rusting, if the parts are aligned, if any such problem you see, you must be careful about choosing your vendor partner. The third thing is choose the quality of gutters. These are the points that you can start checking. You see that what happens, gutter has a job to carry the rainwater, and gutter also has a job to carry the people on the weight of the people to change the plastic. So when you have the very thin gutter and people start walking on it, it tends to bend, and the bent one stops the rainwater. So it starts giving the water as a flood irrigation into your greenhouse. So you have to be careful while these are the points that you must check. If the gutter is very thin, normally international standard gutter is 1.6 millimeter thickness to 2 millimeter thickness, and it must be a part of the structure member. However, having said that, when you go for a thinner gutter, these are the bottom purlins which is put on the extreme left, this thing, let me show it to you again. So these are the purlins that is put, and this purlin gives the stability. However, you can see this bent portion. This bent portion and this bent portion, what happens after some time, it starts rusting, and because of that rusting, you will see that this starts giving the flood irrigation inside your greenhouse. So you don't have any control on the quality of the production. Then the foundation. What is the quality of foundation? Whether it is a telescopic foundation, whether it is a foundation which is Crimp Foundation. So the latest trend in the industry, if you are going for a tubular structure which is circular, of course, then it has to be a Crimp Foundation, which is the latest thing. This is the Crimp Foundation. This gives a better distribution of load. So if you see this type of foundation from the vendor, this can be risky towards the stability of your project. So be careful while choosing the vendor. These are one of the fine points that you must check. The next thing is check the finished projects. Now a completed project, the work will speak a lot, and check for these points. You will talk to the vendor, you will talk to the farmers. The farmers will tell you the true story if you should go for this vendor or not. So these are the checks that you do. There are very, very good quality vendors all over India, in Pune and rest of India. It is a 26 years industry. So there are great vendors available. People with 25 years experience is available. In Pune also, in Ahmedabad also, you should just spend this time to check the high quality vendor, and then you are in the safe hands. Check some success stories. If the person has something interesting to show you. This is one of the farmers of ours, Mr. Ravi Adiyappa in Bangalore IAHR, close to IAHR, who has done 54 tons of capsicum in less than 3,400 square meters just in a double layer net house. No need to go for a greenhouse. For him, he was happy in doing in a net house technology itself. This is a picture from Triangle Farms in Hyderabad, who is again doing in just a double layer net house technology. Of course, I will come to all of these technologies slowly, but right now I'm just showing you the success stories. So it's important for you to check the success stories. After you have done this vendor selection, if we understand the purpose of anything, suppose I want to buy a watch, my purpose is to see the time. and see the time accurately, or it can be also a show off for me to show my reputation. So these are the purposes. The purpose of any structure, let it be tunnel, let it be net house, let it be greenhouse, the purpose is as follows: to prevent against the rain if it is needed. Like in net house, you cannot control the rainfall, but in polyhouse, you can control that. Control the temperature, control the insects, or don't let the insects to come in. Manage the humidity, manage the carbon dioxide, manage the sunlight, prevent against the wind. These are the factors and basic purpose of a greenhouse structure or any protected farming structure. If you are staying with the purpose, so let's understand what are the possible options in Indian context. So this is the few possible options. Let me show it to you. Number one, on the top hand side, you see the tunnel. This is the ventilated tunnel. There is a vent on the top. This one is a double layer net house. Double layer net house means inside we have the movable secondary layer, which I will explain you later. And on the outside you have the either shade net or one more layer of net, which will decide what is that you want to achieve. Again, these are the projects which are designed based on the purpose that we want to achieve out of all this thing. First thing I showed you. This one is a naturally ventilated polyhouse. This one is a fan and pad cooling system. And this one is the latest trend of this thing, which is the Crevo retractable roof system, where you can manage and get the best of both the worlds of the control environment and enjoy the open field kind of conditions. When you don't need it, you can retract the roof open. So these are the possible options under Indian conditions that we may choose. So what are the factors which will empower us to choose these particular parameters? Let's come to tunnel. So tunnels, as you know, a simple structure. You can see it in the front one. These are simple structure. It can be 15 meters into 8 meter size, or this is the tunnel that is right now installed in my campus itself. And this is the model that we export to Kenya. This is just a 120 square meter tunnel, enough for one small family. It is good. This is a good option for the hilly area where you don't have much of a flat land. You can use it in a flatter area. You can use it in a hilly area where this land holding is small, and it is a low cost solution. And there can be many variants of this particular model. The second option is ventilated tunnels. The ventilated tunnels are used where you have the hot climate. Like we have grown crops in Odisha, we have grown crops in Bangalore, and this is a very popular in any kind of condition where you get extreme hot. Then you can use a ventilated tunnel. The condition is again same. It is for a smaller land holding. Each structure can be around 10 meters into 51 meters. So it is around 500 square meters of this thing structure. And you can grow most of the crops because this has got a good trellising system. You can see in this picture also we are showing the trellising system. This is a trellising system you can see. So this gives the support to the plant up to hanging load of 25 kg per square meter. Now these tunnels are very suitable when you are growing leafy greens. Like it can be palak, it can be basil, it can be herbs, or it can be medicinal plants. Now what is the idea is, again, the logic is that from the top of the plant till the top of the heat zone, which is created inside a tunnel, we have enough gap. So if I'm growing something at the ground level, it is not really affecting the plant, and we have enough buffer zone, which I am showing a 2 minutes video at the end of it. You will realize that the importance of the buffer zone, it will not kill the plant and it will keep the leaf temperature less. So suitability of this kind of tunnels, whether walk-in tunnel, in the hilly area, it's great for when you are growing a leafy green and you can protect against the different kind of conditions. This is a DIY tunnel, do-it-yourself tunnel. We are just introducing this model now in India. This is extremely popular in many of the countries. The advantage here is that you are protecting your crop against all kind of unseasonal rainfall. This is very popular in Australia and Europe for growing blueberries, and also in India it will be very relevant to grow the vegetables inside it. The reason is simple. In North India this year you have the lots of unseasonal rainfall. So this unseasonal rainfall and hailstorm damages the crop. This particular tunnel can give a low cost solution to the vegetable farmers of India. Now I got hundreds of questions, people asking about economical solution. So friends, this is one of the economical solutions which is going to come. Then the next technology comes is net house. Net house, as tells, the name itself suggests it is kind of net that we have to cover it with. So it can be different kind of nets, and there can be different kind of structure. So we have based on the shape, based on the shape, it can be flat roof like this one. This is a flat roof structure, and this is a dome shape structure. Now dome shape structure, people have a logic that it can be converted into a greenhouse later if you want. But if you have to convert it into a greenhouse, it's better that you put a greenhouse. Number two, there can be a temperature variation because the difference between the plastic on the top or the cover on the top to the plant can be, the height is differing at different points. So this is, in my opinion, if you are going for this, there are better solutions that you can go for. However, this is the one which is subsidized under Government of India scheme. And now even flat roof or net house is coming under subsidy scheme. So that's a new information that I have got. Flat roof cable type net house, sorry. Based on the material, you have either this kind of dome shape, which is covered with the normal shade net, and it can be cable and post system. The cable and post system has unique advantage. You see here what happens in a flat roof net house, which is made of pipe. If you have a hailstorm, the structure collapses. There is no way that it can go. But in a cable and post system, all the nets are connected at these wires here at these points. So all the load is connected at these points. So whenever you have the wind or any kind of thing, the load gets distributed at that cable. And I will give you a classic example of the case that happened in Ahmednagar. We had a hailstorm couple of years back. Mr. Ashok Bhandari, one of our customers, has our net house for the pomegranate plant, and you can see what happened. When the hail came, the load came like that. Due to the beautiful designing of this particular net house, all his repairing cost was limited only to 3 rupees. Because of the excess load of hail, this particular hoop opened up and all the hail fell on the pathway, and he did not lose any crop or net house. But the net houses which was flat like this, you can have a total collapse of the structure because this is not designed to take care of this kind of a load. However, in a net house, which is on a cable and post system, it is much more flexible, and you can go unlimited size. You can go up to 20 hectares also in single structure without problem. 25 acres, I have seen it with my own eyes. It is possible to grow now you see this net house, this is a single layer net house. It means there is only one type of net. In this particular structure, we have just a red net. In this type, this is also a single layer net because this is only one which is insect net. So the first layer can be either insect net, or it can be a red net or any other color net. It can be a shade net or an insect net. Now when we come to the double layer net house, when it comes to the double layer net house, you have the secondary layer. Secondary layer is movable, and the movable layer, what it does, in the winter nights, suppose you want to prevent your plant from the frost injury, you can spread it in the open in the night time. And the secondary layer essentially is a special kind of net, which is a reflective net. So the reflective net will keep the plant warmer. And during the summers, you spread the secondary layer of net during the daytime, it cuts down the excess radiation. So in a secondary layer net, I have farmers, Dr. Manoj Bhatia, who has grown tomatoes up to 90 tons per acre. When he did not succeed so well, he is a very famous farmer of Karnal, but he did not succeed so well to grow tomatoes in the polyhouse, but he could do that in the net house. Now please understand, there is one challenge. There is only one challenge of the net house, that it can let the rainwater come. Net houses are suitable when your conditions are very dry or conditions are hot. It can do wonders. Even when you have the situation like North India, you can do well. But there is only one point that you have to take in consideration, that you have to design the bed system with a proper slope. Second thing, inside the net house, either you go for a soilless cultivation or you must use mulch so that you protect your root zone when you have the rainfall coming. The number 3 is the bed slope. So you give the bed slope in a direction and the pathway slope so that you are directing the rainwater to go out as soon as possible. And one most important thing, because the net house is covered with the insect net or a shade net or anything which can allow the water to come. So it is important that the net houses are built on an elevated land. Otherwise you will have, and it can happen that the rainwater comes and you will lose your entire structure. So these are the few precautions that you need to take while you are designing the net house. Now, there are different kind of net houses based on the uses. The uses can be vegetables. There are net houses which can be used to grow vegetables, and this kind of net house must need a trellising system. There are net houses to use for banana, and this kind of net house are very high, up to 6-meter height, and it needs a support system also for the banana. Then you can have a single layer net house for pomegranate and papaya. You can have nurseries for, and seedling nurseries are very well grown in the single layer net house. You can have the hardening chamber for tissue cultured plant. Like I will show you further, if you see the hardening of the tissue culture done on the red chromatin net, the results are fantastic. And then you can have the ornamentals like foliage, flowers. So these are the various possibilities based on the application of the net house. And there is one model, I got a lot of questions from the participants saying that what are the suitability of the hot and humid areas. So one net house model that we have designed, and it has been there in the orchid growing countries, especially in Thailand and Goa. Places like Thailand and Goa, you see this is a step kind of model where there is a gap. If you see there, let me show it to you. You can see this gap. This is the step that is created. You can see this gap. This is the step that I'm talking about. So because of this step, the ventilation is better in this kind of a net house, and you have the leaf temperature coming down because of the higher ventilation. So let me tell you something, that the quality can come with affordability. The single layer net house manufactured by Agriplast Protected Cultivation can cost just 199 rupees per square meter, minimum for a 1 acre of structure plus GST. So if you really see, this is the non-subsidy model that we have been promoting, because I personally feel that subsidy is great thing, but there are technologies that can be implemented even without subsidy. If it is affordable, the farmers can go for a low-cost solutions to grow vegetables. Then comes to types of greenhouses. The types of greenhouses can be based on the covering material. It can be glass house, it can be polyhouse, it can be polycarbonate house. Glass houses are mostly suitable for the conditions where you have low sunlight conditions. Holland, it is very well preferred. It is one of the best solutions. Poly houses are more popular in India. Then polycarbonate house, mostly used for research purpose, but polycarbonate as a covering material has a long life. F-Clean greenhouse. F-Clean is a solution, roofing solution from Japan, which has it has a properties like glass, but it lasts more than 15 years. Now, the unique thing about F-Clean is that you need to, it will give you such a long life, and you can make a structure much lighter that you have to make in the glass house. So it gives you the benefit of the glass house, but it is a lighter structure. And then the retractable roof, which I'm going to show you. So F-Clean, as I said, it is very popular in Japan. There is a project done by one of our principals in Russia. So it is ethylene tetrafluoroethylene copolymer, and it's a very, very long lasting, and it's a very expensive product also, costing more than 600-700 rupees or maybe more per square meter. Then we come to the new thing which is being popularized now, it is across the world, which is the Crevo. Crevo is a retractable roof system. As the name suggests, you can retract the roof, and you can see it becomes completely open. So the advantage here, the unique advantage that Crevo offers is that it gives you almost unlimited ventilation, as good as you can do it in an open field. When it comes to the protected cultivation, you can close it when the weather is not favorable, and you can open it when you want the outside weather to come. It means that you have a more sturdy plant, you can get a higher yield. So this is a new technology which is now popular. My friend Rajendra is promoting this and representing Crevo in India. Let's go to the most popular thing which is there in India. Naturally ventilated greenhouse and forced ventilated greenhouse. These are the two concepts which are there in India for 20 to 25 years. Let's talk a little bit about this, because this is important. As you can see here, naturally ventilated, as the name suggests, it must have the good ventilation. So we have to be very careful. When we are choosing this kind of a structure, we must be careful to choose the maximum amount of ventilation available in the structure. Now, naturally ventilated greenhouse can be three types. One is the ventilation is at the top. You see here. So this is called ridge ventilation. The amount of opening is very, very important. Normally, it can range from 0.8 meters to 1.2 meters. 1.1 meter is the bare minimum. So higher is the ventilation, better it is for you, and this is one of the fine points that you must know. Second thing is the side ventilation, because it is again natural ventilated. This is the side ventilation. So again, this is higher the amount of ventilation, better it is for you. So check for this. I will also tell you how to calculate this ventilation percentage. The naturally ventilated can be single side opening, you can see, or it can have a butterfly opening. Let me just quickly show you. So this one is opening at this one side. This is the opening. So this is the butterfly opening, and the second one is the butterfly opening. It opens on both the sides. Now the advantage here is that this gives you maximum ventilation. So if we are talking about the place where we have extreme summer, a butterfly ventilation is good. You will understand this more clearly with the video that I am going to show you next. So this was naturally ventilated greenhouse. You can see that we can have a possibility of a fixed vent. We can have a possibility of opening both the vents. We can have a possibility of opening just one vent with a motorized system. Of course, the motorized system is more expensive compared to the fixed vent, and that is one of the reasons why the fixed vent is able to serve us better for many years. But there is a time that if you are looking for solution, then we should go for the right solution, not the cheapest solution. I will be talking about it in slides to come. So the next one is forced ventilation, which is fan and pad cooling system. The fan and pad cooling system works on a simple principle of water cooler. What happens in the fan and pad cooling system? Let's understand. This is your place where the greenhouse happens. Now when you start the fan, it sucks the air out. It throws the air out, and this creates a partial vacuum. Now the hole is in the pad side. So the fresh air comes from here, which is the hot air and ambient air comes to the cooling pad. So what happens on the cooling pad when it comes? There is a water which is coming from the top, and it is going through this honeycomb structure of the cellulose pad, and the hot air is passing by this one, and then it picks up the moisture and it reduces the temperature. So this is the basic principle of fan and pad cooling system. Many times people ask us, will fan and pad cooling system work for us? I'm going to teach you once for all, so that there is no such confusion in future whether fan and pad cooling system is going to work in your area or not. Please learn it very carefully. So these are the different components. One side is cooling pad. On the top we have the water distribution pipe, and the bottom we have the collection pipe, the storage tank, the exhaust fan and the different kind of cooling pad. But how will you know if the cooling pad system is going to work for you, or in your location, if you know the dry bulb temperature and the wet bulb temperature, if you know the relative humidity, can you actually calculate how much cooling you are going to get? The answer is yes. Okay, before I go to that, it's very important to understand the distance between fan and pad. On the pad side, whatever plants are close to the pad, that will be cooler compared to the one which is towards the fan. As the gradient, as you cross from the pad to fan, the temperature starts increasing. So longer the distance, you will have more gradient, and it is not good for the plants. You will have different pockets of temperature inside the greenhouse. So in order to keep it balanced, the maximum in extreme cases, you should not cross 40. 28 to 32 and maximum 36 is okay. Now let's see how do you calculate this particular. It is mostly the fan and pad cooling system is mostly used in India in propagated plant propagation. This is most popular application in India, but in many places it is used to grow other crops also. Now let me introduce you the concept of psychometry chart. If you understand this concept of psychometry chart, many of you may be professor, it is taught in the refrigeration. So if you understand psychometry chart, you can understand if it is going to cool in your location only or not. There are three parameters which is important: dry bulb temperature, wet bulb temperature, and relative humidity. If you know is these three parameters, you will be able to arrive whether what is the temperature that you can get after the cooling pad. Let me show you one example. Now see on the x-axis where I am showing now. So this one, the blue line that I am now drawing, it is a dry bulb temperature. Okay. So in this particular case, the dry bulb temperature is 35 degrees centigrade. If I have the dry bulb along the dry bulb line, I just draw a line. Next. So now I know what is my relative humidity. I will know more or less my relative humidity. Let's say a relative humidity is 50% or 40%. So we came across the relative humidity line. It crosses here at this junction. Now if I have two parameters, I know the dry bulb temperature of 35 and relative humidity of 40, how much is the cooling that I will get? So you go along the wet bulb line, and if you go along the wet bulb line, you will realize that you can arrive at a cooling of around 24 degrees centigrade. Let's take another example. So first thing, we know the dry bulb temperature, which is the outside or ambient temperature of the around the plant. Let's say dry bulb temperature is 45 degrees and the humidity is 40% again. So if I have the, where is the 40% line? This one. So it is crossing the 40% line here. Now I start going on the wet bulb line. So if my humidity is, sorry, I crossed at 45%, okay? And if I go along this, I can see that I will achieve a temperature of around 32 degrees centigrade. If my outside temperature is 45 degree and humidity is just 45%, then I can achieve a temperature of around 32 degrees. So this is a very interesting thing that you must practice. It is called psychometric chart. You have hundreds of examples of this psychometric chart on the YouTube. So if you want to understand, this is way to design the cooling system. The next most important thing is air circulation fan. Whenever you have the naturally ventilated greenhouse or a net house, we must have an air velocity of at least 2 kilometers per hour. If we get that, then we have a better transpiration rate, which will reduce the leaf temperature and your plant will be healthy. So in order to control that, better movement of air, controlling the humidity, we must fix the air circulation fan inside the greenhouse or net house. There it controls three basic parameters. It controls the temperature, it controls the distribution of humidity, and it controls the distribution of carbon dioxide, and it breaks the humidity buildup. So a movement of air is better. It also gently shakes the plant, letting the pollinate. It strengthens the stem and the root, and it is more efficient in transpiration. So these are the three basic functions of a air circulation fan. See, webinar has a limitation that I cannot go on endless, but if you want to learn anything more specifically, you can always connect with us. We are able to give you any answers on any designing solutions related to all the products that we are talking about. Now, there is I hope all of you have shared this particular video on your Facebook wall and shared the screenshot to my team. If you have not done it, please do it, because there is a good giveaway at the end of it. At least 20 t-shirts are to be given up, caps and pens are to be given, not the fans. So the fan must be placed inside the greenhouse at 16 to 20 meters spacing, and a good fan is an important thing for an efficient fan performance. Now installation can be either in series, it means you can have one after another, or you can have like a snake kind of thing. You can have this kind of formation. I will again draw quickly. You can have in a snake kind of formation in a bay, so that air from one bay it throws in this direction, air from another bay it throws in this direction. So you have a good mixing of the air inside the greenhouse. There are many times question asked how many number of fans that we need in 1 acre. This is the answer to this. Number of fans is equal to area of greenhouse in square feet into 2 divided by CFM of the fan. CFM is cubic feet per minute, and you can arrive at, if a fan CFM is 3708 CFM, you need around 24 average fan per acre. So this is the quick explanation. Now we come to the second part of the total discussion that we have. This is finished. It was a little longer, but this is an important and basic discussion. That's why I spent time in explaining this. The second is choosing the right covering material. Now friends, please listen to me very carefully. It will open your eyes. The purpose, again, I always believe in the purpose of any product or project. What is the purpose of a covering material? The purpose of a covering material is light intensity control. It can either induce more light inside the structure, or it can reduce the light. Second is radiation control. It can control the radiation, it can control the temperature, it can do the insect control, it can protect the plant from the wind, hail, wind speed, so rain again. So with all these things, what are the choices of covering material for you, whether it is a greenhouse, whether it's a net house? The choices are greenhouse film, insect nets, that is regular and Optinet. We have shade nets, which is monofilament and tape net, and a specialized net like illuminator and chromatic. We'll get into detail of each of them. Now let's understand this eye-opening statement I told that this is going to open your eyes. The only job of a naturally ventilated polyhouse structure is to hold the plastic. I'm repeating, the only job of a naturally ventilated greenhouse structure is to hold the plastic. If you do the maths, and if you just do the mathematics, the price of a, let's say, I want to show you this one. Area of a greenhouse, let's say, is 4,000 square meters. And the price of a total amount of plastic needed is 6,400 square meters. Let's say a price of cheap plastic is 35 rupees. And the price of the expensive plastic is 46 rupees. You will realize if the project cost is 700 rupees per square meter, that is 28 lakhs rupees. The difference of the price between a good plastic and a bad plastic is 70,400 rupees, which is just 2.51% of the total project cost. Now, please understand, choosing the right plastic is very, very important. And why is that? Let my fellow panelist is going to speak about that. So do not risk 97.49% of your investment to save the 2+%. With this, let me invite Dr. Mehrab to give her opinion on why Ginegar Agriplast, how many layers are needed in a greenhouse film, what is the research that is going to come, and what has happened in the past. So Dr. Mehrab, over to you.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. If you still have any doubt about why Ginegar and Agriplast is the best choice for you, well, we are located in 60 countries all over the world. We have 50 years of experience, 25 of them in India. We have a very strong customer support, and we are the most preferred brand in India. So we have up to 9 layers technology. We can produce 52,000 tons of film a year and 62 million square meters of net per year. And we have 460 employees worldwide. When we produce a film, we always keep in mind that there's a few key points that are important and we need to have all of them implemented. So we have very good production process, quality control that follows, a lot of research and development, which we'll talk about later, and an excellent dealers network. So what are the basic requirements of a greenhouse film? What do we want this film to do? Just cover the crop, or can we get other things from it? So when we produce a greenhouse film, first of all, we always add the UV stabilizers. Otherwise, the film will not last more than a month. But what other elements can we add to this film? We can play around with light transmission. Is the film going to be clear for where the area is very cloudy? Or is it going to be very diffuse because the area has a lot of sunlight? Well, we want to block the UV light. And then another aspect, is the farmer going to use a lot of sulfur? So we want the UV stabilization package to be anti-sulfur. Thermal effect. Are we going to grow the crops in an area where the night temperature is low? We want to protect the crop from that. Or maybe we're going to be in an area that is very hot. So we want to use an IR cooling additive to reduce the temperature. Anti-drip, anti-mist, also very important aspects in different parts of India. And the most important after the UV is the anti-dust in India for sure. And then we need to check which manufacturing process do we want to use. Do we want a 3-layer, 5-layer, 7, or even maybe a 9-layer? How many layers are enough? Let's say I want to make a really, really nice strawberry shortcake. So I'm taking the best flour, the butter, the cream, the strawberries, the sugar, and I'm taking everything and I'm mixing it all together. If I just throw everything in one bowl and I throw it in a pan and I bake it, I get the cake that we see on the right side, which is not very appealing. And I don't believe any of you will go in a coffee shop and point to that cake and say, this is what I want. But if we take these different ingredients, we know which ones to mix at what point of the production and to layer them out correctly. Then we get this really nice strawberry shortcake that we see on the left-hand side. That cake, everyone will appreciate and will buy it at the store. The same happens when we produce a greenhouse film. We need to understand how to mix the different elements to get the best result. So what are the ingredients to produce a good film? I'll talk about just a few of them, but if we're looking at the polymer aspect, then we have the metallocene linear low, which gives us the good mechanical properties. We have the low density to give us elasticity, and the copolymers of EVA or EBA, which gives us elasticity, thermicity, and they are polymer, so it also helps us lengthen the performance of the anti-drip. And on the other hand, we have the different additives that we can use, the UVs, the IRs, the anti-drip, anti-dust, anti-mist, different additives, but can we mix them all together at the same time? Do they all have the same performance together? So we look at the different additives and we see that some additives have a negative interaction with each other compared to other additives that have a very positive interaction. IR and anti-drip, for example, have a very negative interaction. If we put them in the same layer, we will have a good thermal effect, but the anti-drip will not last as long. Low density and linear and the metallocene, when we add too much low density in the same layer of the metallocene, we will lose the mechanical properties that we wanted to gain from the metallocene polymer. So mixing them together is good to a point, but if we mix too much, we lose the mechanical properties. On the other hand, if we mix the anti-drip with the EVA copolymer, then we get a long-lasting anti-drip effect. So let's take a 3-layer structure. 3 layers, very simple film, greenhouse film, and let's see what can we do with this film. We have a customer, he called us and he said, listen, I want to buy a thermal film. Please produce this film for me. So we will take the anti-dust, we'll take the UV, we'll take the IR. These are the basic additives that we will need to add to the film while producing it with the 3 polymers that we discussed, the metallocene, the low density, and the EVA. And let's see if they all fit in the 3-layer structure. So we took all the additives that we added them in the 3-layer, and we can see that we have the metallocene and low density in layer A. So we get the good mechanical properties. Layer B is the IR and the EVA with some low density, so that's fine. We get the thermal effect. And layer C, we have the EVA and low density. So we get a very good film. We get mechanical properties. We get the good elasticity. We get the thermal effect. So we can sell the thermal film, basic film, with just 3 layers. But let's say the same client comes to us and says, no, now I want anti-drip. So we took the same 3-layer structure with the IR, with everything, and we added the anti-drip. What happened now is that we have the anti-drip in the same layer as the IR. We know that they have a negative interaction between each other, so we won't get that good of an anti-drip effect here. So maybe a 3-layer here is not the best solution, and it cannot give us the best film production. So let's move on to the 5-layer. If we spread out the same additives in the 5-layer, we could get good anti-drip properties, good IR properties, and good mechanical properties. So if we want to produce a thermal film with anti-drip additives, 5-layer structure is more than enough than what we need. Now, as I said in the beginning, one of the most important elements for us in Guinegal is the research. I just wanted to give you a small taste of what we did in the past, our present, and the future. So the past, let's talk about the 90s, Israel, cucumbers. We wanted to see what happens when we cover the cucumbers with the blue film. We took 5 different films. First film, regular, clear film, no UV absorber. Second film, the same film, but with an added blue color. Third film, we took clear film, 15% light transmission in the UV, no color. Fourth film, the same film with the blue color. And then the 5th film, an antivirus film. And 6th, the antivirus film with the blue color. We placed all of these films in different greenhouses in Israel, and these trials ran for a few years. Cucumbers are known to suffer from downy mildew since they evaporate a lot of water, and the temperature with a high humidity is a very, very good environment for that. So what did we see? We saw that film number 6, the antivirus film with the blue color, had the lowest disease incidences. We also saw that the growth rate of this mold on the leaves was the lowest. So back in the 90s, we already learned about the benefits of the blue film for cucumbers. But then let's go to the present. Today, we already see a lot of advantage in using this film. In peppers, for example, you can see here the difference in how the plant looks underneath a blue film and underneath a regular film. We also saw a big difference in temperature. We see a 2 to 3 degrees difference reduction underneath the blue film. We saw a similar reaction for different flowers, and we believe this film has a lot of potential. Now let's talk about the future. So the future is the algae. We understand that one of the biggest problems the Indian farmer is facing is algae that is growing on the film after 1 year of installment. We know that no one is going to install a film for 1 year and then replace it. It's too costly. But after 1 year, we need to clean the film, and this is also very rigorous and takes a lot of work. So today, Ginigar is analyzing the algae, the growth mechanism, to understand how to attack this problem and come to the market with a new film that will be an anti-algae film. And then the Indian operation that we have, we understand that the Indian market is very, very important. So this is one of the markets, the only markets in the world where we built our own production site in India. We brought in the same extruders as we have in Israel, same formulations, same QC methods, same raw material. We have Israeli employees in this production site monitoring the process to make sure that it's 100% the same as we have in Israel. So we can give you all local support with the same high quality of the Ginigar brand. Now I'm going to hand it over back to Mr. Ajib.
Thank you, Dr. Mehrav. Thanks a lot for the insightful explanation about Ginigar film. So friends, as you have heard, Dr. Mehrav, Ginigar is there in more than 60 countries with more than 50 years, with more than 26 years presence in India. So it's a brand worth the trust, one of the choice and favorite choice, most trusted brand of the greenhouse covering film in India. So remember, Agriplast is a company where Ginigar invested 25% equity about 3 years back. So Ginigar and Agriplast are officially partners in India. So let me take you to the journey of the remaining covering material. So the next covering material is insect net. Now insect net is a physical barrier. As we know, it's a physical barrier for the insects for not letting it go inside a net house or a greenhouse, and wherever we want the protection from the insect, we need to use the insect net. How does it work? You can see the size of the hole is smaller than the size of the insect. Only again, I always believe in telling the purpose and the methodology at which it works. The size of the hole is smaller. That is why the insect is stuck outside. So this is the physical barrier to the insects. So insect net works on the principle of physical barrier. There is one common terminology that comes always in discussion is the mesh of the insect net. What is the mesh of the insect net? So mesh is number of holes in one linear inch. Let's say this particular, if you take an inch and in 1 inch you have the 40 holes in this direction, let's say you have the 40 holes. This is called the 40 mesh, and in this direction you have 24 holes. So this is 24. So 40 by 24, if you talk about number of holes in a square inch, that is 40 into 24. It is not 40 mesh. Number of holes in a linear inch is mesh. It means when you have the 50 mesh insect net, you have a 50 holes in one linear inch. When you have a 40 mesh insect net, you have a 40 holes in a linear inch. And when you similarly, when you have the 30 mesh insect net, it's a 30 holes per linear inch. Other side is more or less fixed to 24, or based on the requirement, it can be other dimensions also. So now what mesh should stop what insects? There are two criteria. One is what is the wind permeability. Normally higher is the mesh, lesser is the wind permeability. But then the smaller is the hole size and it can actually stop insect. Now in this table you will realize that there is no 40 mesh. That's surprising and funny. See here, there is no 40 mesh in this list, but we are using 40 mesh. So after 40 mesh there is a 50 mesh, there is a 30 mesh. So this is the size of the insect on the left hand side. I will clear this. You can take a screenshot of this particular slide also. Size of the insect decides what mesh to be used. Okay, and this is the size of the insects given. The second solution is offered by Ginigar, which is called Optinet. Now Optinet is not only a physical barrier, it's also an optical barrier. Now you see here, plant does not require the UV to the extent, and out of the photoactive radiation we have around, this is the UV range, 0 to 400 nanometers, a UV range. A normal UV blocking film or a UV blocking insect net, which is the Optinet, blocks up to 370-80 nanometers of the light, and as a result it does not allow the insects to see. So insects cannot see inside the net house, it gets disoriented. Now what is the effect of that in the net house? Actually, in 50 ms Optinet, it reduced the red spider mite attack, and it was 10 times less spider mite attack in tomatoes. Leaf miner attack was reduced by 8 times, and aphids attack was also reduced under the Optinet. Now please understand, normal insect net did not do the job which Optinet did, because Optinet was blocking the ultraviolet. Insects can see part of the ultraviolet, and when they block the ultraviolet, it disoriented the insects. So insect, though present inside, could not see, and hence their impact on the plant was reduced. So the solution here is that in case you need to use 40 ms, you can also prefer 40 ms Optinet, because besides being a physical barrier, it also provides an optical barrier. The next choice of covering material is shade nets. The shade net can be different types. Now see here, one can be tape net, which is a normal net that you see. The second can be tape and mononet. Mononet is a circular cylindrical HDPE yarn that you must have seen in the monofilament net or insect net. What is insect net made or anti-hail net made is a monofilament net. So the thread of that is called monofilament. So in a tape mononet, one side is tape and other side is monofilament net. In a mononet, you have everything complete monofilament, and then comes the chromatinet. Chromatinet is a net which is using color theory. I will be explaining this all in detail. Let me go quickly to the tape net. Tape net is the most popular, common one available in the country. It costs around in the range starting from 12 rupees, goes up to 25 rupees, depending upon the weight, depending upon the life of guarantee. One thing is important to understand, that people normally these days, of late BIS has come, and BIS offers 100 grams per square meter for only 3 years. But there are suppliers which can guarantee you 5 years of life at just 80 grams per square meter with a more accurate shade percentage. So it's very important to focus on the accurate shade percentage and not compromising on the life of the net. These are the two parameters which is important. Number one, shade percentage accuracy, and number two is a life. So you should focus for 5 years life and the accurate shade percentage. And in Agriplast YouTube channel, you will find a video on how to check the shade percentage. It just less than 5,000 rupees expense. You can make this lab in your office or something. It is very, very easy. And this way you can check the shade percentage accurately. So don't go again for the cheapest, go for the right product. Because of the structure of the net, you can see this has got twisted fibers. See here, this has got twisted fibers, and because of that twist, it tends to diffuse more light. So whenever you are growing plants like capsicum with more leaves or cucumber, a tape net will always perform better because it will diffuse the light to the different layers of leaf. Next is monofilament net. As you can see, if it is used in single layer, it creates a lot of shadow. But why monofilament net is produced? Monofilament net, because of the basic nature of the thread, it is much, much stronger compared to a tape net. And if UV stabilizer is used properly, it can actually last you much, much longer. So monofilament net is necessary where you need really high strength. If you are in a strong wind area, it is preferred to use monofilament net, though it gives shadow, but monofilament give you a longer life. In a double layer shade net house, I will prefer a monofilament net because it provides a strong outer layer on the outside. So we had a question, as I said that during the webinar, we have invited questions from different people. One question has come from Mr. Kumar Borde, Ms. Pune from Syngenta. He wanted to know what is the feasibility of colored covering material in shade net house. Good question, Kumarji. It is on the way of our explanation. So let me tell you, Polysac did extensive research of more than 10-15 years before they launched a series of Chromatinet, a colored shade net, ranging from 30% to 70% in blue, red, gray, and pearl. Pearl is a color which looks like a pearl. So the advantage of the chromatin net is it plays with the spectrum. So red color transfers the red part of the spectrum. The blue color transfers blue part of the spectrum. Gray color diffuses the light and it encourages branching. And the pearl also diffuses the light quite drastically. We have done research on different things. In the interest of time, I cannot get into all the research, but let me go through some quick one. When I got the first brochure of chromatin net, I was shocked. I thought it was a job of a Photoshop. You can see the picture on the left hand side. This is height is only west, and on the right hand side, top is Pittosporum. All other growing parameters are same. On the back side, you can see this red net, plant is higher. And when I go there, I see the plant is almost till my shoulder height. Nothing else changed. Date of planting was same, fertigation was same, everything was same. What changed was only and only the net. And it gave excellent foliage growth. The texture of the leaf was much better. Yield was much better. I have a complete research data which will be available soon on our academy, but right now I am not getting into all the details. Otherwise, I will not finish till tomorrow morning. Then in vegetables, it has been found to give little bit higher yield. In gerbera, it has given a longer stalk length. In banana tissue culture hardening, red net has given a fantastic result of better rooting. You can see the difference. This is under the red net. This is under the red net. So the rooting is better. And of course, when you do hardening of banana under red chromatin net, you will find the result of this in the field condition, because the better root means better establishment and faster establishment of the plant. Garlic was bigger in red chromatin net. Then comes to the most important net, which is called Illuminate, which is very, very relevant for Indian condition. Now, this is a net which does 4 jobs. And we have experience of IARI in Delhi, where it has lasted more than 15 to 20 years. I think after 22 years, they have changed it now. Now, how Illuminate works? First thing, because of the nature, it is made of aluminum foil coated on either side with a HDPE. Now, because of that, it does the reflection when you spread it in the summer days. So summer daytime, it reflects the light outside. So when you use it in the net house or greenhouse, it reflects the radiation, and this will keep the structure cooler. Number 2, it diffuses the light. Now, because of, again, the twisted fiber, when the light comes in, it diffuses in different directions. So it gives more uniform light to the different layers of leaf, and that's how you get a higher yield. So Illuminate is not only a shade net, it is a shade net which diffuses light, which causes reflection, and it can save energy because of the reflective nature in the winter. So in the summer time, you spread it during the daytime over the plant to reduce the radiation. In the winters, you spread it in the night time to reflect the radiation inside, to keep the radiation inside in the crop zone, and it will keep the leaf warmer, and it will not allow the fungal growth to happen. It will not allow all the disease to happen. So it is a great tool to increase the temperature by at least 3 to 4 degrees in the winter. And the last but not the least, it is also a shade net. So besides being a shade net, it does 3 extra things. Now please note and remember that Polysac is a patent holder for Illuminate. There are cheaper alternatives, but they lose their color, they lose their color and reflection after about 6 months to 1 year time. These are the pictures from the field of the copied product. Unfortunately, there has been no successful copy of Illuminate in the world, in my knowledge. Now let's go to the third part of it, which is learning the fine points. Friends, I'm really thankful to you for holding with us for so long. I know it's a little longer webinar, but we really want to give you more and more, and we want to share our experience, which will really save you in your project. So your 2 hours of spending time with us can save you lakhs and crores of rupees in case you are planning to get a project done. Let's understand the fine points. What are the fine points? Before we get into the fine points of the structure, let me get into the fine points of the life itself. So one thief went to the person's house, and he said, he tied the hands of the lady which was available in the house, and then the owner of the house says to the thief, "Man, what are you doing? he started crying, please untie her, please release her. So the thief said, you love your wife so much. He said, no, 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 my wife is going to come. This is my neighbor's wife. So the idea to tell here is that we really need to understand the fine points of life, fine points of technology to succeed. So a little bit of joke is necessary, otherwise I'll get bored and I'm not seeing anybody. So I need to interact with you through the jokes. So first important thing and the fine points is the orientation of the structure itself and the orientation of the crop. Orientation of the structure, it's important. Given the possibility, we should keep the orientation to north-south. North-south of what? North-south of the gutter. So suppose you have a gutter which is 40 meters length. Try to keep the gutter starting from the north going to the south, and the idea is very simple. This is done so that your shadow is not stationary. So morning the sun rises in the east and it goes to the west. If your greenhouse is east-west, then you will have the shadow falling almost constantly. So north-south orientation is the preferred orientation in a greenhouse technology. Whenever you are planning your greenhouse structure, especially a multi-span greenhouse, you should try to get it at least to north-south. Now, in case it is not possible, then do what is possible, but this is the first preference, number one. Number two, if in case of a single span greenhouse in tunnel, it does not matter. But what is important is again the direction of the bed. So direction of the bed has to be parallel to the gutter. So if you are having a north-south direction and if you are growing a crop like capsicum or tomato, if you do not plant it along the gutter, you will have the shadow formation on the rest of the plant. So this is important to note. In case of a leafy vegetable, it does not really matter. But in case of a crop, vine crop or the crop which grows taller, this is an important point worth considering. Next is distance between the greenhouses. Now again, I am telling you the principle, you can take a decision yourself. The idea is that shadow from one greenhouse should not fall on the other greenhouse. Now if we do that, in this case, we are saved, like, you will not lose the plant growth because of the photosynthetic loss. If the shadow is falling on the other structure, we will have a reduction in photosynthesis activity on the next greenhouse. The third one is where most of the people get like, almost misguided, is the end gutter. Now, please remember here, if you see this structure, there is no gutter here. Now, because there is no gutter, the gutter ends here. Because there is no gutter, when there is a rainfall, you have the water coming like this. This is one part which is the side advantage, disadvantage. Now let's let's understand the mathematics of it. Suppose you have a 40 meter by 100 meter of greenhouse and you don't put this gutter on this side. So you are losing, this is 5.5 meter. This side is 5.5 meter into 40 meters, 220 square meters. 220 square meter on one side, 220 square meter on other side, 440 square meter is the total area on which you could have collected the rainwater. Now, if you are in a place where there is a rainfall is 1000 millimeter, that is 1 meter, it means 440 into 1 is 440 cubic meter of water per year you are not able to collect just because one simple thing that you did not have the rainwater gutter. This is the loss of water. Then what is your financial loss? You lose around, the fabricator will save at least half a ton of steel if you're using a 2 mm of thickness. So you think that you got it cheap, but it was not really cheap. You did not get the gutter at the end. Second thing is that how do you collect the rainwater? You see this? I am going to explain this in the next slide. Now see here, the door. If you go in a greenhouse, when you go to see, I told you go and visit the project. You see the double door sliding. These are two different structures. This is not the same structure. So you see if the door is sliding, if the door is made of polycarbonate, what the door is made, it can make a difference of 4 to 5 rupees per square meter. Then you see the gutter end connector. Here, this one. This is to collect the rainwater. You have a huge source of rainwater being collected on the roof of the greenhouse. You must collect the rainwater, and these are the parts which are weighing 4 to 5 kg extra. It is on this side, and on the other side we have the rainwater stopper. So in a proper greenhouse, we will have all these provisions. Then the wind reinforcements. Friends, please understand that I'm talking again of the basics of physics. Whenever you are standing, suppose this is the person. Okay, I'm showing pen as a person. And if I push you here, you will not feel the pressure. But if I push you here, even the smaller force will bend you on the other side. So the wind reinforcement must be provided at a place where the highest, means at the higher point. So if you analyze this one greenhouse, in one greenhouse you have the wind reinforcement, how many pipes? There are 4 pipes coming. At this point per bay, there are 4 pipes on this side. You see here? 2 pipes on here, 2 pipes on this side. Totally 4 plus 4, 2 plus 2, 4, and on the other side 4 plus 4, 8. So if you have a greenhouse of let's say 100 meters, you will have 12 bays into 8 pipes, 96 pipes. If I don't give you, the greenhouse becomes cheaper. You thought you bought it cheaper, but when the wind comes, you get a structure which collapses. And you thought it is cheaper, but it's not cheap. These are the fine points that you must know as a greenhouse grower, as a greenhouse person who intend to put a greenhouse. Then please also note one fact here. In this particular project, you see, normally it has to be a greenhouse member, a steel member. Instead, it is a GI profile which is costing 18 rupees at this point. Also, there is a 4-side corridor. What is happening in a 4-side corridor? There is nothing wrong in having a 4-side corridor. Please understand, if you are comparing the area, a 4-side corridor works out to be cheaper than a 2-side corridor. Now, if you have to go for only 2-side corridor, it should be along the gutter of the greenhouse. That means that if you have to go only for 2-side corridor, this has to be along this one. Okay, so this is the direction of the 2-side corridor. 4-side corridor structure is cheaper compared to a 2-side corridor structure. Then the most important thing is the trellising. Whenever you are deciding a project, please decide what is the crop that you are going to grow. Whenever you are asking for a quotation, please decide. If you are going to grow roses, you do not need any structural support. You don't have to go for any kind of structural support. If you are going for capsicum or tomatoes or cucumber, your structure is going to take the crop is going to take the load from the structure. So here you see the design of the trellising system. You see this C. This is for the distribution of the load. You see the C here? This is for the distribution of load. Now this particular wire, here at this point you will see there is a wire tied. That particular wire on which the wire tied, that is also designed. So trellising is a system which has to be designed properly. It is not that you tie any wire and then it holds on. It is not true. Trellising is a complete engineering. It's a complete thing, because you see here at this point, if you notice, you see how the London Bridge is coming from the other side. This is all done to distribute the load of the crop on the entire structure so that your structure do not collapse. So while you may get a structure cheaper, but if it does not have a designed trellising system, you may lose your structure because of the crop load. Last but not the least, we have the ventilation system. As I told you, it is a naturally ventilated greenhouse. Check how much ventilation percentage you have. If I give you the example of 2 greenhouses, this greenhouse has got a higher ventilation compared to this greenhouse. This is around 0.8 meter. This is around 1.21 meter. This is around 3.5 meter. This is blocked at 1.5 meter. So if you calculate the total ventilation percentage for a 2000 square meters area, it works out to be 41%, 41.5% in this structure on the top and 21.5% on this structure at the bottom. Which one will give you better control? Now please understand, our objective of a protected farming is always to achieve a better leaf temperature, not the greenhouse temperature. In order to achieve a better leaf temperature, you need to have more air flowing inside the greenhouse so that it encourages the transpiration. Once the leaf loses the moisture, it will cool down itself. And for that to happen, you need to have more and more ventilation. So while we are using the technology of naturally ventilated greenhouse and not having enough ventilation inside the greenhouse, is like I want to commit suicide. So this is one more thing. Majority of the greenhouse is working on the universal joint system, and it is almost very difficult to operate the side ventilation. In a naturally ventilated greenhouse, the only control we have is the side vent. Fixed vent is a fixed vent. You are not, because it's called fixed vent. The variable vent is the side vent, and the side vent, you can see, this is my employee, Mr. Rahul, and he is trying to operate the vent, and it is very difficult. And so is the case. You will realize, and you can ask yourself, are you able to operate your side vent for the better air movement inside the greenhouse? So building the greenhouse is not doing any job. Controlling the environment inside the greenhouse is what is necessary in doing inside a greenhouse. So by doing this system, which you are not operating at all, you are not getting the benefit of what the greenhouse would offer you. The simple system of operating is the chain and pulley system. So if you use this chain and pulley system, you can operate the greenhouse ventilation much more easily. Then quality of accessories. Friends, quality of accessories is very, very necessary. You can check the nut bolts. What is the zinc ferrous coating? What is the coating of the accessories? I showed you if it is rusted or not. Normal coating is about 10 to 12 microns of electroplating. We do it more than 22 microns of electroplating on the connector so that it does not rust for more than 20 years also. So these are the factors which needs to be considered. What is the quality of consider? How they are being produced, these are the factors which will decide. So factors which impact the price, please note down. You should have a screenshot of this particular slide. The height of the structure, higher the structure, more expensive it will be. Choice of covering material. You should choose the right kind of covering material. If you take an insect net of 80 GSM, it will be cheaper. If you take an insect net of 120 GSM, it will be more expensive. If you take a plastic film which is diffuse, which is blue film, it will give you more expensive product, but it will give you the right desired result. Trellising system, whether your structure has a trellising system or not, whether you have gutter in the last bay or not, whether you have the drain gutter collector or not, whether you are going for a secondary layer mechanism or not. Are you going to operate your secondary layer? Are you operating it just with a russi or rope, or you want a proper mechanism for that? What is your quality and standard of the steel? Whether you have two-side, four-side corridor. Friends, these are the factors which are going to impact your price. Then you have the entry door or not, whether you have the wind reinforcements or not, what is the coating of the zinc component, what is the choice of fastener, what is the gutter thickness, whether it is 0.8 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 1.6 millimeter, 2 millimeter. Thicker is the gutter, and the coating on the gutter should be minimum 275 GSM, not 120 GSM of zinc. So 275 GSM or not, what is the type of profile and spring, then guaranteed lifetime for the covering, what is the wind speed the structure can handle. These are all the factors which decides the price of a greenhouse structure or a protected farming structure. When you compare the quotation, pay attention to all these things. I will tell you a very interesting story. One of our customers took a quotation from us for 1 acre of fan and pad system. They found us very expensive. They went and did the project with somebody else. Of course, it's our habit that we keep in touch with the customer, even if they are not our customer. So we went after 6 months, we went to visit their project and we asked them, why did we lose this order? He said, you were very expensive. I said, can you show the quotation of the other person? They were friendly, so they showed the quotation. Now, friends, you will not believe it. They had asked a quotation of 1 acre and they had taken the supply of 1,000 square meters. That was costing 15 lakhs. We were costing 60 lakhs. It was a fan and pad system for a nursery. So we were exactly at the same price, but they had asked us a quotation of 1 acre and they were comparing it with a 1,000 square meters. So obviously I will be expensive. So sometimes people make this kind of mistakes also. Technology improvisation needed for India. So the technology improvisation that may be needed for India, in my opinion, because we are cost sensitive people, our market is very, very price sensitive. Farmers are still not getting used, and greenhouse technology, in spite of being one of the cheapest in the world, it is still people find it more expensive because majority of the question comes towards how can you reduce the price. So friends, I explained you the reason. Let's see this particular slide. So friends, this is how many things works in the industry. We have not really try to evolve rather than one person has tried to copy others, and that's one of the reasons why the industry has not grown. But this is the time that we should actually start thinking. The limitation that as a greenhouse supplier have is that the government gives the specification, the subsidy department tells that you make 8 meters a structure or 6 meters height, and that's a limitation. The farmer is not motivated to use any new technology, or somebody else is not motivated to bring the new technology. I will just show you quickly a small video of Rishel, where they have gone, and the Rishel is one of the biggest greenhouse manufacturer in the world. They are making structures up to 12.8 meters span, and we are still stuck at 8 meters only. And I will show you the advantage. What is the advantage when you make a higher structure?
Plants are often grown in greenhouses because greenhouses create an environment controlling the temperature and humidity in order to secure and optimize crop production without being dependent on climatic variations. Over the last 20 years, the height of greenhouses has increased from 6 meters to 11 meters. Why such an increase in height? Because the most important thing for plants is to have space. The volume can foster a homogeneous temperature around the plant, which will enable temperature, humidity, and ventilation changes to be controlled. The crucial part of the plant, in other words, its center of activity, is its head. This is where the young leaves, flowers, and fruits will grow. Therefore, it is a part that we will take particular care of. In a greenhouse, there are different layers of temperature. Even if the outside temperature is very hot, the 11-meter greenhouse will allow the grower to control a homogeneous and even temperature around the head of the plant. This is the buffer effect. With heat, the plant transpires. But when it is too hot, the plant will go into a safety mode, stopping transpiration and keeping its water reserves. As a result, the plant will stop growing and production will decrease. The volume of the greenhouse also helps ventilation. The higher the greenhouse, the stronger the chimney effect, and the ventilation inside the greenhouse is better too. That is why nowadays, with relatively fewer openings, we manage to air the plants even better than in smaller greenhouses. Although the plant needs temperature variations between day and night at different stages of its growth, these transitions must be smooth and regulated. Mild and controlled temperature changes promote steady growth for the plant and thus great.
So friends, you saw the world is moving towards higher structure. In India, one of the recommendations that I will make it to the people who make the policy is to go for higher structure, at least 7 meters, 7.5 meter and 8 meters. But then higher you go, the chances of its collapse in the wind is much more higher. So it is better to design the structures carefully. Second thing is that we should have a freedom to design. Today, we are told that you should design this and you should design this. Actually, I cannot ask an architect that you build my house. I can only give the requirement, but I do not tell him that you make the room of this size, or I cannot tell him that you should take the column like this. So it is our job is like an architect. A good greenhouse manufacturer should be like an architect. It is not about selling a product, it is selling a project. So if we design the project, it is always better that we understand your requirement, and projects should be designed accordingly, not just supplying the plastic or not just supplying the structure alone. The next important thing is that if you have the freedom of design, people can come. We have really brilliant people, and I am telling you that in our industry, we have people who are experienced of more than 26 years plus in the industry. They have the capacity to design things, and they are structure designers. But the thing is that their hands are tied because of the norms given by somebody else, and we are bound to follow as per those norms, and which is a problem that the industry is not able to grow to the fullest potential. So I will request, if there are any policy makers, if you can bring about this change where you give the freedom of design to the manufacturers, you will not only have the quality manufacturers, but you'd also have more faster evolution of the industry itself. Then one of the things that I am personally of the opinion that we should have the shade net, retractable shade net technology, which should be used from outside the greenhouse structure. This will cut down the radiation. I have got many questions from people. how to grow in hot and humid conditions. This can give you one of the solutions. When you do not have the radiation coming inside, then you will have a right solution inside the greenhouse. So please remember, one size does not fit all. We need different solutions for different people in different locations. There is no fixed norms. There is nobody can fix that you must use this size of ventilation. This has to be a project design, and that is why if you really talk about the world, if you talk about the real project designer, I do not get more than 5 to 6 good companies across the world, but we have many in India, and there is a shift that is needed from a product supply to a project design in order to evolve the industry to the next level. I always believe in this particular philosophy. We run on Jugaad. I get a question always like, what is the quote of the greenhouse? Send me a quotation of the greenhouse. I do not know right now what is the size. I do not know what is the location. I do not know what features you need. Whether you need a fan and pad system, whether you need a natural ventilated, whether you need a smaller structure, what is the size of the greenhouse. So all these things I do not know. So please do not ask this question to any greenhouse supplier, right, without giving any details. How much does it cost makes no sense unless you know what you are going to get in that price. You need to compare your quotations very, very carefully. And then I get hundreds of quotations I want to try. Please know it's a technology, it is 100% there to work. You want to try your hands in an open field agriculture, be a better grower, then aim for a greenhouse farming, you will always succeed. Reduction of the price, sometimes you reduce it by cutting down the essentials, which you as a customer may not know, but this is happening quite often, and others are cheaper. Please remember, when you buy a S-Cross or BMW, both have got 4 cars. You have to decide whether you want what specification. First fix the specification, then choose a vendor, then negotiate the price. If you negotiate the price and then go vice versa, there is 100% chance that you may fail. And you may end up making mistakes which may turn out to be very, very expensive. Because as I told you, we run on Jugaad. Both of them are making the coffee. Both of them, probably the cooker one will taste better, but this is cheaper and this is a proper machine. So anybody who is making a proper machinery will definitely be more expensive, but it will do a long lasting job and you will have lesser maintenance cost. I want to tell you a small story of my friend, Mr. Kumar, who is running a Maruti showroom in Patna. One guy, he came to him and he said that, sir, thermostat is not working, so please change it. So Kumar Sahab, mechanics, they checked his car. Everything was all right except the thermostat. He said, okay, the changing the cost will be around 10,000 rupees. This is the service, maintenance and repair. So this guy was totally baffled. 10,000 rupees for changing the thermostat, only it is not showing the temperature. So he went to a roadside mechanic and the roadside mechanic said, how much does it cost? He said, it will cost you 100 rupees, sir. So he said, okay, do it. So he did it. And as soon as he started walking, his car burned completely. It's a true story. But I will tell you what the mechanic did. He just removed the wire from the thermostat, so it stopped indicating. While it stopped indicating, he was very happy that now my car is repaired, but it was not. It did not remove the root cause, actually cut the symptom, the wire itself, which was showing the symptom. So you may land into this kind of situation when you blindly go only for price. So my humble suggestion is better you don't do a project, but when you do, make the studies as I told you in the beginning. You will get a hold of good people. There are good manufacturers across the country. India is full of talent and there are very, very talented people. And before I get into question answer, I will end up with a nice story, another story. This is a old man who was very rich and he fell sick once and he went to the hospital. Guess what hospital he went? He went to the cheapest hospital. Doctors gave him the prescription. He bought the cheapest medicine. After he took the medicine, he died. You know what? What is your view on this story? I can tell you that when it comes to our life, we never go to the cheapest place. We always go to the best. We may not go to the best, but at least we go what is right for us. So it's very, very important for us to go to the right solution, not for the cheapest, not for the expensive. Please understand your requirement. Go for the right solution because, as I told you, cheap is not cheap, expensive is not expensive. And with this story, you would have understood that you should always choose the right solution. So this is the story that many of us can relate, and many a times we go for the cheapest. go to the question answer. We have a very interesting question of Mr. Akhilesh Kumar from Eden Horti. Let me tell his name. He is a good friend, but the question is very relevant about high-tech greenhouse in hot and humid region. Akhilesh ji, we discussed about different solutions on the top. So let me tell you. In hot and humid thing, one of the things that we can do around 10 to 15% less planting density because we need a better air movement. Our goal has to be always having a better this thing. Second thing is more ventilation in structure. As I explained before, we have to have a better ventilation. Third thing is avoid excess irrigation. If at all irrigation has to be done, do not irrigate over. Irrigation and spraying should be done early in the morning so that during the daytime you don't build up excess humidity during the temperature. Then insect nets on the vent should not be put in the greenhouse. You should not put a ventilation and use tools like mulching. You can use cool film, like I told you, the blue film, Dr. Mairav said, eliminate. You can use Sambrasol. Sambrasol is a spray. It is like a liquid shading agent and air circulation fan. So when you use all these tools, you can control any kind of conditions, most of the conditions in a hot and humid area also. There is a complete detailed lecture on the greenhouse management. Probably we'll be keeping in few days to come. So you can have that part of the session, attend that webinar. It will be covering this in more detail. So this is the Sambrasol I told you. It's a liquid shading agent. You can generate different kind of shading depending upon the kind of concentration that you're going to use on a greenhouse. So heavy shading you need to use around 10 buckets per acre. And for normal shading up to 50%, you need around 6 buckets. This is available with Agriplast. You can contact our sales team later. This is sprayed, as I said, is a liquid shading agent. So you can spray it on the plastic and it cuts down the radiation. Now, one more important thing for hot and humid condition is that automate the side vent because you can easily manage humidity and air flow. It is not possible for any farmer to go 20 times and operate the vent. So difficult to operate manually. Let me show you a quick video on how it is operated. Mr. Gabriel has asked what are the ways of protecting polyseed from high winds. Let me give this to Subhankar.
Thank you, Rajesh sir, and thank you, Gabriel. This is a very prominent question and very see, whenever during this monsoon or high wind time, a farmer must take care of few things in their greenhouse. Initially, they must check if their plastic are restretched or if their plastics are not coming out of the profile, so they should check the spring. Also, they must check any holes or any tears are there. For that, they can use the film repair tape, which is specially designed to patch those holes and cuts. And you can always see if the plastic is not stretched, contact the local fabricator and re-stretch the plastic, because that is very, very important. If plastic is loose, it will damage very easily with the wind pressure. And then you must check the springs and the sharp edges of the profile, because that also helps to cut down the plastic very fast. And you can see this GI springs, etc., which is coming out from the plastic. And the next slide is, here you can see the sharp edges of the profile has cut down the plastic very easily. In this greenhouse, nothing has been planted, but the plastic is damaged because of wind and because of the sharp edges of the profile. And also there is a zinc migration. This also damages the plastic very fast, because from the pipe, the zinc migration happens because of humidity inside the greenhouse, which in turn degrade the plastic very fast. So you must use, there is a product called Solar Guard, and which must be painted on the plastic or so on the metal of the structure. Wherever the plastic touches, plastic touches the structures like this. So this will help you to save the plastic and give the plastic longer duration to sustain. Thank you.
सबसे पहले अगर आपको जो प्रॉब्लम है कि अगर आपके पॉली हाउस में ह्यूमिडिटी का लेवल बढ़ता है तो उसके लिए कुछ रीजन हो सकते हैं। जैसे अगर हम ये बात करें कि हमारा अगर इनसाइड पॉली हाउस का ह्यूमिडिटी हाई है तो उसमें जैसे आपका इरिगेशन सिस्टम है, आप उसके ऊपर अगर बेड सॉइल पे है तो उसमें आप इरिगेशन को प्रिसाइज करिए, इरिगेशन बहुत ज़्यादा ना करिए। अगर ग्राउंड से भी इवेपोरेशन आ रहा है तो ग्राउंड को कवर कीजिए, वीड मैट से कवर कीजिए। अगर मल्चिंग भी आप लगाते हैं तो वो बहुत बेटर है। इसके अलावा अगर आपको हीट स्केप करनी है ग्रीन हाउस के अंदर तो आप शेड नेट की अपेक्षा समब्रासोल का उस टाइम पे यूज कीजिए जिस समय ह्यूमिडिटी हाई है, तो हीट जल्दी स्केप होगी और शेडिंग का जो परसेंटेज है वो आपको समब्रासोल से मिल जाएगा। Third point is the circulator fan. You can use circulator fan to avoid the heat chunks inside the greenhouse. अगर आपके ग्रीन हाउस में अलग अलग जगह पे अलग अलग ह्यूमिडिटी टेम्परेचर का चंक क्रिएट हो रहा है तो आप उसको जो है सर्कुलेटर फैन की हेल्प से कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं। साइड कर्टन प्लेज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल। अगर आपका साइड कर्टन का ऑपरेशन प्रॉपर है, दिन में 2 या 3 बार 4 बार आप इसको यूज कर सकते हैं, तो वो आप जो भी आपका अंदर और बाहर का क्लाइमेट है उसको इंटरचेंज करने के लिए आप उसे यूज करें। तो इन सब चीजों से आप ग्रीन हाउस के अंदर ह्यूमिडिटी को बढ़ने से रोक सकते हैं। सेकेंड क्वेश्चन है आपका डॉक्टर साहब कि हम अगर निमेटोड का कंट्रोल करें, निमेटोड को आने से रोकना हो तो उसके लिए हमें क्या करना चाहिए। तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अगर हम प्लानिंग फेज में हैं तो हमें अपने सॉइल का टेस्ट कराना चाहिए। सॉइल टेस्ट में पैथोलॉजी सॉइल टेस्ट होता है, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है, जिससे हमें निमेटोड की पॉपुलेशन प्लस उसका स्ट्रेन कौन सा निमेटोड है वो हमें पता चल जाता है, जिससे उसका हम बायोलॉजिकल कंट्रोल भी कर सकते हैं। सेकेंड चीज है कि अपनी सॉइल में हम ऑर्गेनिक कंट्रोल, ऑर्गेनिक मैटर परसेंटेज, अगर ऑर्गेनिक मैटर परसेंटेज हम अबव 1 रखते हैं तो वो सॉइल काफी हेल्दी होती है, उसमें माइक्रोबियल एक्टिविटी अच्छी होती है, जिसके चलते निमेटोड की प्रॉब्लम्स को नेचुरली जो उसके अपने हेल्पफुल फंगस होते हैं वो उसको कंट्रोल करते हैं, जिसमें पैसिलोमाइसिस और दूसरे फंगस आते हैं जो निमेटोड के पेस्टिसाइड हैं। फिर एक इंसेंशियल प्रैक्टिस होनी चाहिए ग्रीन हाउस में सोलराइजेशन की। अगर आप प्रॉपर सोलराइजेशन सीट के द्वारा एनुअली प्रॉपर सोलराइजेशन करते हो तो आपको निमेटोड की प्रॉब्लम आने वाले समय में बिल्कुल कम होने की संभावना है, क्योंकि ये निमेटोड की पॉपुलेशन को कंट्रोल करके रखता है और भी बहुत से हार्मफुल फंगस बैक्टीरिया को कंट्रोल करता है। तो सोलराइजेशन इज मस्ट, हर ग्रीन हाउस के किसान को ये चीज करनी चाहिए। फिर आपका आप ये देखें तो H2O2 हाइड्रोजन पेरोक्साइड ये एक बहुत अच्छा निमेटोड के रिपेलेंट का काम करता है, तो आप इसका भी बीच बीच में क्रॉप में इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं जो कि काफी बेनिफिशियल है। फ्यूमिगेशन या कैमिगेशन जो केमिकल के थ्रू हम सॉइल को ट्रीट करते हैं वो भी आप कर सकते हैं जरूरत पड़ने पे, बट ये काफी हजार्डियस होता है तो इसको आप ज्यादा प्रीफर ना करें। अगर बहुत ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम हो रही है तो
I think he has covered his question. Next is from Sandhya Prakash from Dubai. Mr. Call, you can take up this question, please.
Thank you, Rajiv. And thank you, Sandhya, for asking. I personally feel the finest questions. In fact, 2 questions you have asked. The first one, when it comes to the light, I personally feel it's one of the most important environmental factor responsible for healthy plant growth. But unfortunately, the most ignored one, at least in our country. So when it comes to the controlling of the light, the first thing we need to know about our crop is that all the crops are divided into 4 groups on the basis of light they require. The first group is short day plants, wherein the light requirement is shorter photoperiods are needed. Then comes the long day plants, then comes the day neutral plants, which are not photosensitive. And then there are intermediate day length plants that need very long photoperiods. So if we are very sure that the crop we are growing to what group it belongs, we will gradually come to know about the light requirement. Then second thing is about measuring the light inside the greenhouse, which wherein possibly most of us commit errors. 2 things come into force. The one is what we need to measure is the power light. That is the photosynthetically active radiation. That is what we are supposed to measure. And again, two things. One is the instant power light, and another one is the average power light. So this instant power light is anytime you move inside your greenhouse, you check it with a power meter, that is the instant light. And this instant intensity keeps on changing maybe every second, every minute. So this is a good tool to measure the light, but doesn't tell us about the average light that our plants have received. So there are two. The second thing comes into force, and that is measuring the average light that we call DLI, or daily light integral. A minimum power light intensity for seedlings recommended is 100 to 150 micromoles per meter square per second. This is the intensity I'm talking about. And the minimum power light intensity for a mature crop is 200 to 350 micromoles per second per meter square. And when it comes to the average light that I told you, DLI, daily light integral, for healthy crops, 12 to 18 moles of light per meter square per day. Here the unit is per day. So you need to calculate the amount of light received by your plant for 24 hours. So this is 12 to 18 moles per meter square per day for healthy crops, and for seedlings should be around 8 to 10 moles per meter square per day. This is about the light. I hope your question got answered. The second thing that you have asked, second question you have asked is about the watering the plants. Again, let me tell you a factor which is normally misused by most of the people, because most of the people are under this impression that giving excess water does not matter. But to me, giving excess water to your plants is more dangerous than giving them less water. The amount of water normally taken up by the crop is affected by so many factors, say crop growth stage, crop rooting depths, availability of soil water, and environmental factors like solar radiation, humidity, temperature, and wind velocity inside your greenhouse. Though solar radiation is a very reliable parameter to decide about the water requirement of your plants, but there are certain few thumb rules that one needs to take into consideration, and these are, remember one thing, the plant roots always grows well in depleted zones where nutrients and water is less, where it has already taken the available water and nutrients. The plants will move towards that particular plant roots will move towards that particular area. So it's very important to maintain that very important for us to know that how much dryness we can afford to be there in the root zone. Then overwatering, as I told you, is very dangerous. It can suffocate your roots. It should strictly be avoided. And another parameter that probably I would like to tell you is that if we are maintaining, say, a 70% moisture in the soil, once this soil moisture comes down by 50%, this is time to restart our irrigation cycles. Here, your soil moisture sensors can help you a lot. When there is a few more things that we need to take into consideration are availability of light. Less light means less photosynthesis, so less water. High humidity means less water. So it's always better not to irrigate your plants during late hours or during a night, and when the season is cloudy, when the day is cloudy and humidity is very high. Reduce your irrigation. There is another factor that I would like to stress, that most of the people always ask us that how much water per day per plant is needed. And most of the people will quote 1 liter, 2 liters, 3 liters. This is okay to say, but never, I am not for this rule. Never and never we should follow this rule. This isn't, good indication, but unless and until we take into consideration the climatic conditions on that particular day, we should not observe this rule. We should strictly and strictly restrict our irrigation while keeping in mind the availability of light, the humidity, and the wind velocity. Thank you. I hope I have been able to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Call. Let's see the next question. This is again, Mr. Assis, you can start with this question of suitable polyhouse design for heavy rainfall area.
Hello, Dr. Natraj. I'm glad to take your question. We have observed that during monsoon, usually humidity is high. So from here, we can conclude that high rainfall will lead to high humidity. In this case, we should have very good ventilation and airflow in our polyhouse, provision of hot air blower, ground covers, and mulch to prevent evaporation, precisely designed irrigation and fertigation system, and most importantly, we need to decrease the plant population in such cases. Another thing I would like to mention here is humidity and temperature goes hand in hand. It has a logarithmic relation, means a little drop in temperature shows a steep in humidity curve. Also, transpiration is directly related to humidity. Plant won't transpire well if, if relative humidity is very high and may lead to deficiency of micronutrients. Thank you.
This is a question that has come, Mr. Majid Abu Salem. Which type of protected technology is the most suitable for a small scale project with minimum budget? Friends, here I would like to answer this question in a very simple manner. Many of the people get confused that protected cultivation only means it has to be greenhouse and net house. The answer is no. The protection starts the minute you start covering, even using a mulch. So you can have a protected cultivation taking care of your root zone just with less than 20,000 rupees an acre. Then comes to the next level of protection, which is crop cover. Crop cover can be used again to protect your complete insect control in open field cultivation. The third layer of protection can come only on the insect net fence of 3 meters on the perimeter of 1 meter of field, and that can also give you higher yield and protect from the insects. So there are different levels of protection, and then comes the single layer net house. So friends, even before you get into the real protected greenhouse technology, you have 3 additional sub solutions for a protected cultivation, protecting the root from the excess water, protecting the root from the weeds, and then you go to the crop cover, and then to the insect net on the side. So these are the 3 layers, which starts from 15,000, goes up to not more than 40-50,000 rupees an acre, and that is at least these are the smaller solutions which farmers can start using with, rather than going for an absolute high tech to start with. This is a question for Abhishek. Which type of structures is suitable for hilly areas where snowfall is prominent?
Thank you, Mr. Negi, for the question. And A-shape or a hut-shaped structure with a single span will be suited in your area, which will allow the snow to slide down to the ground. So this is one parameter which we need to keep in mind. The other thing is that if we want to go for a multiple span structures, we need to calculate the snow load also for the structure. One more important point, inside the structure, we can use hot air blowers that can increase the inside temperature of the structure, which will melt the snow. Most common covering materials which can be used in this is clear LDP or clear plastic, which has a very good tensile strength, and others are polycarbonate sheets, glass houses, and clean. And what one more thing, one important thing which we can do is we can close down the curtains so that the inside temperature increases and it melts the snow. Thank you. And one more point which Rajiv sir would add in this.
See, there is one solution that I would like to recommend you here for the colder nights where you are going for tunnels or smaller structures. And this can be applicable right from Leh Ladakh to anywhere where Leh Ladakh has got a very clear day, sunny day. So please think this is a water tube. Water tube is simple polyethylene tubes made out of UV stabilized plastic. And this is put on the northern wall of a tunnel. You make a simple structure with a wire mesh and you just put these tubes and then fill the water and leave it. It acts like a water sink. It can also be left like a tube in between the path. So what it does is, during the daytime when the light is there or little bit radiation is there, it will act like a heat sink. It will absorb all the radiation and hold it. But during the night, when you don't have the source of energy, it starts radiating. And at that time, you can see this is the test that was done in Israel by our principals. And they realized that it brings about the temperature difference around 8 to 9 degrees centigrade in a very, very cold nights also when they have the daytime. So this can be a low cost solution again for a hilly greenhouses. I hope this answers the question. So there is one thing I had promised in the beginning, that I will give you a quiz for the people who want certificate. So this is the link to the quiz. You can go to the link and answer around 50 questions. Those once the quiz is submitted to us, those certificates will be issued and mailed to you by email in next 3 to 4 days. So this is the process to get the certificate. Go to the https protectedcultivation.com/webinar-quiz. So you can take a screenshot, put this link and take the quiz to get the certificates. So before I proceed, I know many of you, we are already over time. Many of you might be willing to leave it. In case you need to take our contact address, you can take it from here. There are 2 slides of the contact address. One is for all the products that is needed for greenhouse in case you want to buy a greenhouse film, insect net, illuminate, all those things that we spoke about. You can take from Agriplast Tech India, or you can take any of the project related questions. You can take from Agriplast Protected Cultivation. So let's summarize the webinar quickly. We have understood about the different kind of technologies, what kind of covering, cheap is not cheap, important parameters. I think before you decide your project or before you go to choose a vendor, please pay attention to all these points. You will definitely succeed in your pursuit to high-tech agriculture. And do not forget, as I told you, all this last 2 hours has constituted only 30% of your success. Horticultural skill is one which will make you successful. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. We will connect again soon. You can write to us in case you need any further clarification, and you can connect with us on one-to-one. We will be very happy to answer your questions. I know